Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the We Know the Traitors podcast over here on RHAP. I'm, of course, your host, the Duke of Deception, Pooya Vakili. With me is my lovely co-host, Brian Scally, and we're joined here today with Gail. Gail, how are you doing at this hour?
I am great. How are you guys?
Doing good, but excited to talk to you. Gail, I am curious to hear how much did you know about the Traitors going in before the show? Because I feel like you were very fun and I want to see what your level of familiarity was with it.
Well, I'll say I had heard about the show. I fell upon it, the UK version, just by chance one time flipping channels. Didn't watch the whole season. So when I got approached to do the show, I was familiar, but not, I wasn't a huge reality show fan, even though I did Amazing Race Canada.
Mhm.
Um, so it was interesting. And I just feel like every time I've been offered these shows that something happens where I'm a complete believer in whatever comes into your life. If they're showing strong signs, you're meant to do it. And this was one of those things that just fell in my lap. And I was very resistant because Amazing Race Canada didn't turn out great for me. So I was like, no more reality shows. And I had some personal things happen that kind of gave me the momentum or the motivation to do this show. I really wanted to trust my gut instinct. So weirdly, I wanted to go into this show being faithful. So
Oh.
I wanted to trust or check my gut instincts again. And I had gotten betrayed this year personally, like on a deep level. So it's just, yeah, it was a hugely rewarding and healing experience. Like I felt like I went into deep intensive therapy and came out strong.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
I love
crazy.
that.
Mhm.
Now, I will say going into the Traitors, especially this season, feels like that can either be super validating or a little bit shaky with how some of the reads on these Traitors went. How do you feel after this season then?
Okay, now watching the show back in hindsight, it is so different. I'm sure you've heard this from the other exit interviews, but being in that manner is a totally different ball game. I mean, of course, you guys are watching it and knowing and seeing all the obvious signs. Listen, Heather, who did the casting, did an amazing job. I mean, these personalities that came into this manner, first off, we all clicked like crazy. I love this cast and crew. Everyone was amazing. Um, just all the loud personalities too. They were very distracting. Okay. So yes, Michael John, I get it. We took way too long. But to be fair, Netta and Kira were amazing traders.
Mhm.
Amazing. To this day, I'm going, wow, I just can't believe it. Right. And
Yeah.
last night's episode was mind-blowing.
Very fun episode. Unfortunate that you were not at that roundtable because I would have loved to see how that would have gone for you.
Yeah.
Gail, so I want to quickly go back to the beginning of the season. You are one of three people that gets the privilege of choppering in to the manor. How was
Yes.
that experience?
That was amazing. We're like, where are we going? Where are we going? Why do we have to go in this minivan and everyone else gets to go in the cool cars, right? So we're driving and we pull up to the helipad and we're like, oh my God, we're gonna have a target on our back right away. Everyone's gonna be like, these three girls, okay. And of course, that was the first time I met Netta and Mary Jo really and got to speak to them and really clicked with them. And then after that, I found out Netta was on Big Brother. And I was like, why didn't she mention that? Right. So of course the game already started by then. And but you know what? I'm a girl's girl. So ultimately, I think I made it pretty far because I was the closest to Netta and Kira. So it worked out for me. I think that if Nick was not in the game, then I probably would have made it one more show at least. Right. So it was good.
Yeah, it was tough because we did feel like we saw both Netta and Kira trying to protect you in the conclave a little bit.
Yeah.
Michael John really had your name for a
Oh,
couple weeks there.
it was
What were your
hard.
relationships like with the three traders?
Well, first off, I was just like mind blown because we both come from a wrestling background. And normally when you come from pro wrestling, it's this weird brotherhood and sisterhood. So I thought we'd click right away. So when I watched back the season and I saw how hard he went in on me on the second episode, I was mind blown. And I was like, oh my God, wow, okay. And so I knew how it was going to play out further down the road. And I had to ask the other traders, I'm like, how many nights did he go after me like that? Because I'm shocked. And so, listen, we get along now, we all get along, but I was kind of surprised by the aggressiveness.
So he ultimately does end up getting his way with pushing your name, but you don't go home that night. You instead get put in a little jail cell in the middle of nowhere. How
Yeah.
was that experience for you?
I was just like, wait, what? What's happening? Because you don't know if you're really murdered. You're kind of waiting in your room, and then you can tell by the time, kind of, because everyone gets their doors knocked on at a certain time. And so when, a couple hours pass by, you kind of think, okay, I have a huge possibility of being murdered right now. And then they told me the twist, and my mouth just dropped open, and I waited all day. And so it was it's crazy. I mean, there were thoughts that I was like, is this fixed? Like, what's going on? Right. But it was not. I can assure everyone that everything is completely as you see it. And yeah, they let me pick the numbers. And I want to talk about this Aaron thing, because I see a few people
Please.
yeah, a few people saying, oh, so he looked at the keys. So what? You guys got to understand, right? I mean, this is 12 plus hours being fit into 45 minutes. And me being able to see from that cage, I could see everyone's reactions very clearly. And nobody cared about which key was being chosen. And Aaron, not only did he look at the keys as everyone would if they're going to go to the board, but he was probably 10 feet away and doing the side eye like this, like kept on looking at least 3 to 4 times. Very just, very shady. So in the manner, things like that really stick with you. You're very tunnel vision, and it's huge, right? A little thing
Yeah.
can become a huge thing, and you're focused all day.
Especially with such a lack of other like hard facts. I can see how you can get like completely stuck on that one thing. But Gail, I think we thought at this point, all right, Gail is hard cleared as a faithful. In no world does anyone think Gail is a traitor from this point on. But we hear there's a little theory that Gail is a traitor. She purposefully put herself, she knew which key. How shocked were you to find this out, and how much did that get going in the house?
I never heard that during my time there, not one time. Shocked when I saw it on the episode. I went, oh, if I had known that, I probably would have played into that a little bit more, in this past episode, so I could try to keep myself still in there. But I had no clue that that was even a theory. So it's interesting, right? Because you think you're there, but you really only see certain parts of the game. So, the people you talk to, people you get close to. And yeah, I was mind blown by actually with Netta. I did think her a couple of times during the season. And then there were things that were not shown in the edit that made me really in the Aaron episode where he got banished. That night was when she reacted a certain way. And I was like, oh, Netta is a faithful. And so I would have carried that right to the end with her. Right. So I really trusted her.
What was the more surprising after the fact reveal for you? That Kira and Netta were traitors, or that Kira and Nick were siblings?
Kira being a traitor.
Oh, it's
Oh,
number one.
I mean, Netta, I was surprised because then I had already changed my mind.
hmm.
I change my mind every day, guys. I mean, it was because you go into the game with a certain game plan. And I did think, let's lay back at the beginning, observe. But my personality is I have no filter. So I had to hold back a little bit. But there are times I'm watching the show now, I'm like, whoa, I'm a little bit too direct here. I couldn't hold back. And so I don't know. It was I lost my train of thought.
Which was more shocking between
Oh, Kira.
Kira being a traitor, yeah.
Oh, Kira never picked up on for 1 second. Not 1 second. She was very
Yeah.
good. Her energy was always very positive, right? High energy vibes. And I don't know, never felt that at all.
What would you tell future faithfuls to be on the lookout for? So someone like Akira or Netta could not sneak through in the future.
Oh, it's hard to say because you overanalyze so much. Like I said, I went in and I started analyzing everything, writing notes at the end of the day, but then it becomes so overwhelming that I kind of threw it away and I went, you know what? It's too much to overanalyze. I need to go by my gut instinct, which we really couldn't. I mean, look at Trina, right? I love Trina dearly, but she was so wrong every night. Up to
Gail,
the best.
earlier in the season, we saw you look at Jasmine as the potential traitor. What was your relationship like with Jasmine?
Good, good,
Yeah.
really. We didn't become too close because I would say she was pretty early, before the halfway point.
Hmm.
And so, listen, there's 22 people to start. So you're going to gravitate to certain people and you try your best to get to know people. Just like Michael John said, I never talked to him in the beginning. It's just hard to get to everyone.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, with Jasmine, she was just really loud and distracting, right? So, I fell for it. That's all. There's like Trina, Cedric, Jasmine. I mean, there's so many loud people. I would say for future faithfuls, maybe don't get distracted by the noise and just observe, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know that you came into this season wanting to be a faithful for a reason. Now,
Yeah.
if you were to go back, how do you
Yes.
think you would do as a traitor, Gail?
Whew. I'm not a good liar, but
Okay.
I did play a bad guy in wrestling. So, and I did it for years at both bad and good. I think I could do well, but Netta even said it's hard. It's hard to keep up the lies. And I think you just got to trick yourself into saying, I'm a faithful, I'm a faithful, I'm a faithful. That's the only way to get through it because wow. I mean, and then Netta posted last night that she had this book
The
of plans.
notes.
I was like, girl, you deserve to win. The preparation you put in this, I didn't put that kind of preparation in. You deserve to win.
A lot of like we're talking scenarios on this document of like if I'm this and this is the cast and then I'll do this.
Yeah.
I can't fathom. I can barely plan together my day.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's other people that were prepared too, though. I'm trying to think. I mean, people were this cast, even though we came off as very dumb faithfuls, I felt like there was a lot of good players in this game. It's just a lot of
Okay.
strong personalities.
Rand
Go ahead, Scally.
I was gonna say a random question. Gail, who on your cast, whose name would you pass along to the professional wrestling field? Who would make a great villain in there?
Oh
Or a
my God.
hero?
Yeah, it was the top heel.
I talked to Nick about, I'm like, did you ever consider becoming a wrestler? Because you're so flippy and all these,
Yeah.
yeah. And I would say for character wise though, Melinda. Yes,
Ooh.
Ooh.
I could see it.
the queen.
Yeah. Oh, Melinda could cut a promo in half. That would be
Oh,
lovely to
promo and
see.
a half is right. She was,
Hmm.
and Trina can she's got some good one-liners. I mean, the confessional queen right there.
Hmm.
True.
Yeah. It's all
Um,
about personality.
so Gail, I have one last question for you before we head on out here. So you mentioned at the beginning that when you were reached out to for the show, you were familiar but not too familiar. Now that you've lived it and you're
Yeah.
watching your season, do you find yourself is this going to be the one reality show that makes it through your radar and you continue watching it moving forward?
Oh, 100%. And I always tell everyone, if you have the chance to do the show, do it. It was such an incredible experience. Everyone, and I have another wrestler friend that's doing the US seasons 3, Nikki Garcia.
Yes, yes.
And
Hmm.
I actually did text with her when I got back and I was like, how was your experience? And she had the most amazing experience too.
Good.
I just think it's Amazing Race Canada was so intense and like you don't know when you can eat or drink and when you're on your next mission. This one was more my cup of tea, talking and observing and drinking wine. Right. So
Love that.
yeah, it's awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Gil, for giving us your time. I'm so happy to hear you had a good experience here. We had a great experience getting to watch you on the show and
Thank
see you thrive on reality TV. We hope to see you back. We know this is not your scene, but hey, Hopefully a new show comes your way and we get more Gail
The
in
right
our
fit,
lives.
I would do it. Yeah.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
All right. Talking, wine, good times. Gail's
Yes.
there. Got it.
I can fight too. So if they want me to.
There we go. All right. Take care, Gail. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Okay. Bye.
Welcome back, everybody, to the We Know the Traitors podcast over here in RHAP. I'm your host, of course, the Duke of Deception, Pooya and With me is my lovely co-host, Brian Scally. And we are joined here by a traitor extraordinaire. It's Kira. Kira, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Kira's so excited to talk to you. What a fun, great game played. I guess, should we just start with what happened?
What happened is the question. I am so confused. I just watched the episode right before this. I'm watching and I'm like, I don't understand. I actually don't see what happened. I'm confused for sure.
Okay.
So very early on, first of all, I want to say this, Kira. So you were coming into the show familiar with the show? Were you a big fan of the show?
Huge fan. Huge
Okay.
fan. Actually, Nick got approached for the show and he was like, he didn't tell us that he got reached out, but he was like, do you guys know what Traitors is? And my sister and I were like, yeah, this show is amazing. So big fan.
That's awesome. And now, so Kira, when you were going in, I think I know the answer. Were you really hoping to be a faithful or a traitor? Was this a dream come true, getting that traitor's tap on the shoulder?
I for sure wanted to be a traitor because I know that I'm a good liar. I've known this my entire life. So I'm like, well, people see the bubbly and they tend to not see past that. And especially that I speak French and English, I sometimes am not as eloquent in English. And so a lot of people think she's just maybe a little bit ditzy, a little bit dumb. And so I decided to use that as an advantage, you know?
Hey, and you really did. You killed it. Like literally no one looking at you as a suspect. Multiple people, Kira, telling us, the audience, yeah, if Kira's a traitor, I'm the dumbest person in this manner. That must have felt amazing watching back.
It was so funny, but I felt so bad in the same breath because I'm like, no, you're actually very smart. It's just that because they have great suspicions other than me. That's the issue. And I'm like, well, I'll take it. I enjoy you're 100% faithful. You are so emotional. There's no way you could be a traitor. And I'm like, no, I am emotional. Don't get me wrong. I know that. But I can separate the murdering because that's part of the game. And I know that. But the rest, I'm like, yeah, emotions do run high.
There's so much to talk about. Kira, just even rewinding all the way back to the beginning of the game, you had a really good sense of like removing yourself from the people that you were murdering, but then also you were very protective of Rebecca at the beginning of the game, to pointing yourself out there saying, I'll be her proxy, like put eyes on me. More attention than many traitors are willing to take on themselves at the beginning of the game. Why did you put yourself that far out there for Rebecca?
Her and I connected so quickly. That's why people were like, oh, they must have possibly known each other. And I'm like, no, we were very similar and we had the same experiences and we just kind of together. And it did scare a lot of people. For me, it was more the fact that I wanted to look like a faithful. That's the point. Traitors don't put themselves on the line. Traitors don't speak up. They're not very loud. Unless they're just like bad. So you kind of have to maneuver your way around. So that was my goal, is to look the most like a faithful. And if I were to be up against another traitor, aka this week, my resume as a faithful was significantly better than the other person that I was accusing. That was my goal. If I'm ever in that position, I look more like a faithful than you.
So let's stay on the Traitors track here. So I want to talk about your first appearance in the Conclave. And you get there, you take the cloak off, you see Netta in front of you, and you see Michael John. What was your immediate reaction inside to seeing who you're teamed up with for the rest of the season?
I clocked them both.
Okay.
I had already clocked them both. I had already been vocal about Michael John. I knew from the get-go. I don't know how people, it's crazy to me how he went so far. Because I don't know about you fellas, but when I was watching this, I'm like, it's so obvious. It is so obvious. Even as somebody, like before I even knew he was a traitor, I was like, oh, that guy looks bad. But I had seen Netta on BB Cam. I knew that woman is trouble. And so that's why I saw this group and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be difficult for me because I know she's very slippery and I knew how she worked. And so I'm like, I need to keep an eye out for her, but Michael John was just so interesting at it that I'm like, yeah.
So when early on you're talking to Netta and you're saying, I'm all in, fine, like let's go take this to the end. How genuine are you in that?
I am probably like 50% genuine. I'm aware of who she is. She's like, to me, the entire season, she's like, oh, I don't trust Kira. I don't trust Kira. She's like building this idea of like, oh, I can't trust her. I'm like, girl, you would not have taken me to the end. I know you. Don't fake it. I'd rather you be honest and be like, no, I want the money. No problem. I get that. But I'm like watching this and I'm like, you're no angel. What are you saying? What are you doing?
It was wild to us watching from the outside because we truly felt that if the two of you had genuinely wanted to go to the end together, I think it happens. I felt like this is a match made in heaven. This is a team that's great. I feel like what began to go sideways from where we were standing is when Michael John decides to blow $5,000 out of the pot for a shield for no reason. And Kira, this felt like the turning point for your game as well. This feels like where your game, you go from playing the role you were playing to, yeah, no, I need this guy out. So what went down with all of that?
Okay, what people don't understand is he came into every single conclave naming the same 3 people every single time. And it's like, it's Gail, it's Mike, and it's Pac-Man. 3 of my closest allies. I'm like, dude, name somebody else. Let's play the game. Let's do something. Because also I know he doesn't see it this way, but I was trying to save his back because they were calling out his name quite vocally. You don't want to throw somebody's, like, you don't want to murder somebody who's already naming your name. It looks really bad for you. And if the faithfuls were paying attention the way that I was, I would have had huge red flags when Mike and Pac-Man went home. I would have been like, oh, what's the common denominator, you know? So that's the thing that it's just not making sense for me.
Yeah, I mean, we got a little bit of it, but it kind of felt like you were like, Michael John, that's not your $5,000. That's my $5,000 you're throwing away.
But I went back to my room and I wrote down all the pros and cons before I knew that it was him. Because I went from one person to the other and I said, they did not take it. They did not take it. And he was the only person that I was like, oh, he took it. Because out of all the saints, he was the one that stuck out. And I told him, so I wrote down all the pros and cons, and I did not come up with an actual pro. Because realistically, if he wouldn't have taken the shield, we would have looked amazing. We would have all looked like we are faithfuls of the faithfuls. We are here for the group. We're confident in like our group. I don't know. It just did not make sense to me. And I kind of it was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, because I'm like, this man just is playing a game that is just not making sense anymore. Or it never made sense to me, but it was more like, I can't play with this guy if he's not even willing to name other names. Like when I brought up names at the conclave, no, he was like, I want these people out. How am I supposed to play this game?
Well, so you have that energy in the conclave, and Kira, it does feel like you're pretty well aligned with almost every single person in this game, and so that inevitably means letting some allies go along the way. Do you feel like there was one murder that was like the biggest mistake for you to let go of?
I don't know if there's like a specific murder, but the last the whole Pac-Man Gail Mike thing, the reason why I think that was a mistake, I think that was my biggest mistake of the game, is I was thinking, let's keep the people who are loud and wrong. Let's keep those people around because they're not looking at me. Literally every single person had not named my name. And so I'm like, I'm not worried. Let's keep the really busy, talkative people. They're all wrong. But my issue is that they were loud and wrong, but they were not listening ever.
Yeah.
Ever. So when I watched the episode and I'm like, I'm making some really good points here and no one is listening. And that was their problem, which fair enough. At least they got me. So that's not the issue. They got a traitor out. But let's hope that they were listening to me when I was actually speaking, because I came up with some really good points. And so that was my mistake, not keeping the people who were listening.
Yeah. I feel like the loud and wrong has truly been the theme of the season, to the point where once you were like, I gotta cut Michael John loose, the man has got to go. It took like what, 3 roundtables before he actually gets voted out. How frustrating was that, A? And then B, how awkward was it to go back to the conclave with him, right? Like after this failed attempts multiple times.
Yeah, it was hard to get back to the conclave, and like it was awkward, but at a certain point it's like, okay, get over it. Like there's nothing you can do about it. And I'm like, whatever. I'll just move on. He's cool with it. We tried to like sweep it under the table. I will say, at like the second time that I went after him, wasn't even on purpose. I wasn't actually like gunning for him or anything. It was just Pac-Man that was like, hey, can you speak up? Like, can you say it again? And I'm like, oh no, I have to be loud again. That's not good. What was your first question?
Just the with regards to how frustrating was it to bring those things up for multiple roundtables and then have them kind of fall on deaf ears a little bit?
I have never had a time in my life where I was not heard this bad. Like even Nick was speaking up and we were not being heard at all. And even when Karen was like, hey guys, can we listen to the people who don't speak much? And I'm like, hey, Karen is giving us a hint here. Can we listen to the people who are not speaking up often, but we're making sense? And still, they did not listen. And it was so frustrating because they all had named his name before. They all had that inclination, but they were like, oh, well, we want to get the head of the snake. Well, let's get the bottom and then let's work from there. Cause I said it before, it's a puzzle. no traitors are going to be the exact same.
Mhm.
They're not going to put Mike and Michael
No.
together. Like, it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. They're not going to be putting like Nick and Kevin. It doesn't make sense. So there's logic behind,
Like a variety pack.
Yep.
the little bit of spice on everything, but like
Mhm.
difference. Yeah.
So we see in the last two conclaves, it looks like Nick's name is coming up a lot, and you're pushing back. Now, do you have any regrets over that? Is there any part of you that thinks letting Nick go might have helped your game there? Or no?
No, because I do think that he had my best interest in mind, and he was, every time, if he had ever heard my name, he was gonna come see me. So I have no problem with that.
For sure.
I knew that if I did get to the end with him, like, my goal was to get to the end with him and just he and I be at the end, and I'm like, haha, traitor, and he'd be like, oh, sucks. But you know, like, it's not like a shitty ending where it's like it makes you feel icky
Yep.
because somebody really like backstabs someone.
Mhm.
You know, my brother's just like super cool. He was in it for the fun. He wanted to win because he wanted to just play the game.
Right.
It's not for anything else. And
Sure.
he said, well, if like he wanted me to win. He
Mhm.
knows that I'm a huge fan of the show. So he said, well, it would be great if you won too.
Mhm.
Was it, so you mentioned earlier that lying comes a little bit easier to you than other people. Was it hard to lie to him, or was it easier to lie to him because he's
no.
your brother?
No, it's so hard to lie to Nick. Like, you can see it in my face. I have such a hard time lying to that man because he's so perceptive. And there's a few times where he, like, in this episode, he's like, I'm not gonna look at you in the face.
Yeah.
He knows that there's something in my eyes when I lie to him. I cannot lie to Nick. I don't know why. There's something in my face that just like screams at him. So
Okay. And so I am curious. Obviously, we saw Netta went very hard for you this round. And
Mhm.
you had brought up her name, but it doesn't feel like this was necessarily the round table where you were taking your shot. At what point did you plan on trying to go for Netta?
Realistically, this is how I saw the smartest scenario. This is what
Sure.
I thought. Not this round, but the next one, where we do not, or at least around the fire.
Sure.
Fine, put in little seeds here and there. That's what I was doing. I know the edit looks like I'm gunning for her, but I'm just like, oh, you're finally speaking about her? Sure, I'll speak about her too.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're finally speaking about her. I have never heard her name before until
Mhm.
this episode.
Yep.
So, and I didn't want to be like the only person talking about Netta. To me, it looks weird that she's the only person who's now speaking about me. It looks weird. So I don't know. I was aiming for the fire, where she does not have any place to talk about me.
Mm.
She had seeds and everything, but she did not gun for me by then.
Mhm.
That was my plan, because she gave me a shot to rebuttal. She
Sure.
let me, I knew there was a point at the round table that I went, oh, I'm not getting out of this. I could see it. And clearly from the show, they had already decided what was happening. They were not listening. But I said, I'm going to give you all my information. I have been observant. I have been watching her. I have as a faithful, I have my information on her. You are giving me the chance to share that with them, which I think might be a big mistake. And I didn't want her to have that with me.
Right. You didn't want you basically wanted to, when you struck, there's like no time for speaking. It was just the vote. Yeah.
That's why
Okay.
I had multiple versions of like, okay, if this person's here, okay, I think I'm good. If I'm at the fire with these 4 other people, I think I'm good. I had all these different variations that I thought would work for me. And even with having Netta around. So that's why I was like, okay, well, that was my goal. She just struck first, which unfortunate for me.
And did you have any inkling that your name was being tossed around?
Not even a little. Not even a little. No one had. It's so funny because they're all saying throughout the season, they all come up to each other saying like, oh, your name's being brought up, blah, blah, blah. No one had the decency to come up to me to say, hey, your name's being brought up. Like, just letting you know. And a few of them I consider like actually close friends of mine now. And I'm like, what happened? Because you didn't come up to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bitter.
Well, we saw Cedric go up to Netta and give Netta the heads up that you had brought up her name. But I guess he didn't. That wasn't a two-way street there.
Cedric's a character, right? Like he's just trying to save his own butt, and I get it.
Yeah. Was there, because it looked very much like it was the tale of two alliances in those cars. As soon as this breaks up, was there any effort to split you and Nick up in those 2 cars? Did you try to
We had no
plant
chance.
him over? Okay.
We had no chance. That's what I did think to myself. I'm like, Netta did this and she's good because we were splitting up into cars. We had our car on the way there, Cedric, Lori, me, and Nick. And I'm like, okay, let's switch it up. But they were already in the other car. And I was like, so then I got back and I haven't seen the Crave edit yet to see if it's in the show, but Cedric would be like interrupting us all the time. And I was so tired. I was like, dude, I'm just trying to speak. That last day was like emotionally exhausting for me because nothing was going right for me. You know, those days where like you put on the shoe on the wrong foot. That's how bad that day was. I should have known it in my soul that like something was off. But me just being Delulu, I was like, oh no, everything's fine.
Well, especially I feel like on the heels of finally getting rid of the person you were trying to get rid of, you're like, the sky should clear up. It's blue, it's sunny, it's a great day. And then to have a day like you did where it's like nothing else is really working. You're like, but this was supposed to be a good day. This was supposed to be the one. So yeah, I can only imagine how frustrating that must have been.
Yeah, it was definitely unpleasant, but you know, it made sense in the long run. It was just like everything went wrong. And I should have known it in my soul. I just didn't. And I kind of was so drained from those car rides that I remember I just sat there and Nick was there and I'm like, I just need a second to breathe because you're so emotionally exhausted by that point. And it's been such a roller coaster that you're like, I just need a second.
Yep.
It's not yeah.
No, I'm gonna say, Kira, I'm curious. Coming from someone who I think a lot of people have a lot of respect for your game as a traitor. Now, we look at Michael John, who it's almost like if he was still here, would he have been a shield in front of you that Netta has to deal with? If Netta like goes a little earlier, is that not a problem you have to deal with? To future traitors, what do you think is best? Do you think should we take out each other early? Should we make that attempt? Should we final three it genuinely? Like, what is your recommendation for future traders?
Last thing that I'd ever want to do is the final three. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
We've seen how it works.
Yep.
We've seen there is no way. I actually do believe that Michael John might have shared for sure. Like, I actually genuinely believe that he would have shared. So that was not an issue in my mind. I don't think you should be taking each other out super early or anything. Like, that's why when I had named Michael John already, I was like, oh, you need to calm down. I didn't realize I was right. So I was like, you need to take it slow. And like, I didn't bring up his name anymore. I tried to deflect when his name was brought up a few times. I was trying to play a game together until not. But I do think that you do need to consider it a group game until you realize you kind of feel it out. You can't have a like specific strategy, because let's be honest, if Michael John would have been maybe somebody different, we could have gotten further, all three of us.
Sure.
But at a certain point, there's no way that you don't want to get to the end together. Well, I don't think so. I personally. And you saw how hard it was to get Michael John out. I did think to myself, after getting Michael John out, I thought, how the hell am I supposed to get Netta out? Because Michael John was obvious, but no one's naming Netta. So I don't know.
Well, I have one last question for you, Kira, before we move on from the call here. In the event that Michael John had gone out 1 round sooner or 2 rounds sooner, and y'all had the chance to get a recruitment going, who would you have wanted to recruit? I feel like a lot of us are assuming you'd push for Nick to be the one brought into the conclave. Oh, well, who would have been?
I love Nick, okay? I love Nick so much, but he is the worst liar.
You took all the lying traits in the family.
Yeah. Just trust me. When I'm actually shocked that our secret was kept. I'm baffled that our secret was kept. I think that if anyone were to confront him about it, it would have been different, because he can't lie. But he was able to, if it's not brought up, he's fine. So I would not have brought him into the conclave, because he would have gone very quickly. I think the switch up, he would have gotten stressed. It's just not for him. And a lot of people have said, oh, I want you to recruit him. I want you to recruit him. Trust me, you do not want me to recruit him. It would have been the end of my game. But I did think Gail or Lauren would have been great. I think Gail would have probably been the person that I brought in, because I do think she would have shared. And I would have gotten to if we could have gotten Netta out and then her and I would have absolutely shared with her. And I think that she would have shared with me. That would be, but we did consider, Netta and I had a conversation where we did consider bringing in Cedric, just to throw him under the bus.
Yeah.
Like, they've got 2 traitors. Now they're only looking for 1 more.
It's true. Kira, this was so much fun, just as much fun as watching you all season. I really hope we see you pop up somewhere else. I think you would absolutely kill it. Obviously, Big Brother Canada, at least on a little bit of a hiatus right now. I don't know, the challenge, something.
The challenge is like my all-time, like, if I can be on the challenge, and I feel like I could kick some serious butt at those challenges. So
fingers crossed.
Yeah, I definitely second that. I think that would be great, and I think you would be great on it. Here, we talked about this last night, and we said that ultimately, obviously the season's not over yet, but it's already in our top 3 for English speaking Traitors. And I think you've played quite a role in that. So thank you for giving us a great season. And hopefully we see you in another project in the future.
Fingers crossed. Thank you.
Boris, take care, Kira. Have a good one.
You too.